Okay, hey, BOOZHOO! Welcome back to BOOZHOO, NANABOOZHOO, the podcast about OJIBWE language and culture. And happy Indigenous Peoples Day! Happy Columbus Day. This is a little video for our friends down at Hennepin County Library. BOOZHOO, listen! Anyway, today I would like to talk about the OJIBWE, the story of Columbus. And actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about Indigenous Peoples Day too. You know, in the Anishinaabe language, in the Ojibwe language, I think, you know, our term for indigenous, if you want to say where you're from, you say Onjaba. You know, like me, I'm from LaPorte. LaPorte, Nindonjaba. LaPorte is where I'm from, Nindonjaba. And indigenous just means, you know, where you're from. So not a lot of people know this, but, you know, Columbus was indigenous. Yeah. They don't talk about this much in the history books, but Columbus was indigenous to Italy. I mean, like, who's not indigenous? That's my problem with the holiday. We go, oh, this will be a day that we honor indigenous people. Oh, really? You mean Native Americans? Well, yeah, and Alaskans, and Hawaiians, and of course the indigenous people of, you know, Jamaica and Haiti and South America, and the indigenous people of Africa. It's like, but just not the indigenous people of Norway and Germany and Italy or wherever. So it's basically, you know, everybody's indigenous. But okay, so anyway, this is the OJIBWE. This is the story of Columbus. At least how they taught it to me when I was a kid. So back in the days of the grandfathers, 1492, there was a man named Columbus who wanted to prove that the earth was round. And he thought he could just sail west and eventually come back round to the east, to Asia and India, which will eventually come back to the story. So he goes up to the king or queen of Italy or something, and he goes, "Hey man, I need to go on this voyage. Can you give me some junia? Can you give me some money? I'm going to build some boats." And he goes, "I'm going to prove that the earth is round. Because it's round." Like, remember that Bugs Bunny cartoon? Ease around, just stereotyping Italian people. Or as they call it in Bina, Italians. Ease around like a ball. And then the other guy would be like, "No, ease a flat like a pizza pie." But, so I forget the details. I don't know if Italy or England or who gave him the money. But he gets the money and he builds 3 ships. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Ocasio-Cortez. And so he sets sail to find a passageway to the east, northwest passage to Asia, in search of gold and fine linens and spices. Always with the spices in these old stories. So he set sail west, and a lot of people were like, "Oh man, he's going to get out there and he's going to fall right off the edge." But he never did. And as I was taught, one day he was out there on the seas in his ships and he sees some land. And the story really gets stupid by this point. And so he lands. They say, oh, when I was a kid, oh, that's when he discovered America. You know, Columbus, he landed on America and somewhere out, I don't know, Plymouth Rock or somewhere. I get mixed up with the Thanksgiving story. But he lands in America and he goes, oh, look at us. We were the first people to ever discover America. And then he, so he went back and he named it America and said, this will be the land of the free. But so when I was a kid, it was like, yeah, he was a great hero. He discovered America and he was going to prove that the earth was round. And then sometime in the 1980s, they were like, okay, you know what? That never happened. He never discovered, he actually never made it here. He discovered what we call the Bahamas or something, like Haiti and Jamaica. He discovered these islands somewhere between like Florida and South America. Haitians, you know. I mean, there was a different name for the indigenous people there. But then they started saying, okay, you know what, kids? I know we told you that he was a hero. But the truth, okay, you know, it's kind of like that day they had to admit Santa Claus was fake. All right, listen, we didn't want to ruin social studies for you, so we made up this story about Columbus. The truth was, yeah, he's from Italy, and he did sail over here. But he landed, he didn't know where he was, and he landed in Haiti. And the story, this part you can believe though. This is why I'm suspicious of the whole story. He apparently he kept some journals, and this is why they know he thought the earth was round. And in those journals, when he first saw the Haitian people, he goes, oh, they were very, very good looking people, but they wore no clothes. And they were very kind and generous, but they didn't know anything about anything. And when we showed them our swords, they grabbed it by the sharp end and were amazed that it cut their hand. They couldn't believe it. And so then they went on. The news story was, okay, he didn't discover America. In fact, he discovered gold and the slave trade and all kinds of horrible things. And, just the worst things you could say. He would cut off the hands of the natives if they didn't deliver him enough gold. And 4 different times he went back and forth. I don't know, still not knowing where he was. Oh, but then this is the funny part. So it's also the story how they justify why everyone's called Indians. They go, oh, don't call them Indians anymore, because that's what Columbus did. He was lost, and so when he got here, he thought he was in India. He saw our long black hair and dark skin. He was, oh, look, Indians. I've heard about these guys. Hey, are you guys Buddhists? Or whatever? You guys are Indians, right? And the Shinabs are like, what? No, you're not in India, dude. In fact, you're in Haiti. I don't know how you mixed that up. And Columbus like, get out of here. You guys are Indians, right? And so not only did those original people not correct him, they're like, okay, yeah, fine. I guess we're Indians. You work that out when you're explaining this to your bosses. But then what I never understood. So then that just took off. So now everybody in North America is being called Indians. And the actual Shinabs are calling themselves Indians. What is that? Oh yeah, we're Indians. Proud Indian people. Oh, you're from India? No. Okay, technically I'm Anishinaabe. You can call me Ojibwe. I know for a while you called me Chippewa. But we all call ourselves Indians. Then they go, okay, well, let's not use that word because it makes no sense. We'll call ourselves Indigenous. But everything is indigenous. So here's my final opinion on Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay, yeah, it's nice, I guess. If the government wants to change that holiday, I don't care. Do what you want. But I think the real issue here is we got to do something about our history, our stories. You know, kids, when I talk about history, you'll notice I never say, oh, in OJIBWE history, I'll say, back in the days of the grandfathers. You know, history is sort of the word that means the thing that's written down by the government and then taught to the people. And Columbus is just, you know, the tip of the iceberg of how many of these stories are so, they're like nursery rhymes. And it makes you wonder, you know, what else are they teaching us that's just silly nonsense? How much of that story is even true? Can I believe any of it? You know? I guess I'll just have to trust. You know, luckily, George Washington, they say, never lied. So anything he said will be the truth. Because it is the government history. Nah. So, I don't know. That's quite a tangent. So then, Columbus, you know, discovered Haiti. I think the Haitians, if they have a grudge against Columbus, that's, you know, that's a good point. As an Ojibwe person, oh, and then this is the other part. So then, you know, I'm digging around and I'm reading up on this stuff. And it says the governor last year down in St. Paul, he did an official proclamation that this day will be called Indigenous Peoples Day. And they had a march to the sacred Native American burial grounds. And I go, what is the Native American burial ground? Apparently there are 6, I mean, I know what they are. My whole life I was, oh, look, the Indian burial grounds. And you picture, you're picturing, what did they do? Just round up a bunch of bodies and bury them in this mound? That sounds horrific. And I don't think that's the way we buried our dead. We had these little houses. They look like little dog houses. But so I looked into it. Like, oh no, they weren't built by the Dakota. They were built by like the honey something people from like 5,000 years ago. Is the story in their history. How they would know this, I have no idea. But apparently that's a structure down there. And they found some bodies in there. And they found some copper artifacts and whatever. But they don't even claim it was made by what we're calling the Indigenous people of Minnesota. It was made by the people who were here before the Dakota and before the Anishinaabe. So, you know, if we're being, what year do we call when we're indigenous? Are the Ojibwe indigenous to Minnesota? Well, I heard we migrated here from out east, out by the like Niagara Falls area or something. So, I don't know. It's a can of worms. It's a can of worms, man. So today's Ojibwe word of the day. OJIBWE story. Because that's all history has ever been, a story. And don't let them tell you that, oh, it was written history, so that's somehow better than oral tradition. Stories are stories. They get passed down. And the Columbus story was passed down. And it's hilarious. I don't know why we call ourselves Indian. I don't think it's because Columbus made the mistake. And finally, this is my last thing I've never talked about, but I think is a really dumb story to OJIBWE. And like, I heard once they said, when Columbus's boats came to the New World, the natives, they couldn't even see him. Their minds could not grasp this advanced technology. So amazing were the Italian shipmakers. They couldn't even envision it until a medicine man came up and like touched him on the forehead or did something mystical. And then they could actually see the ships. Ugh, that's so insulting. I mean, just the idea, have you ever experienced, just because you never saw something, that it was invisible to you? I mean, what did they think the first time they saw a car? Or a rocket? Or a plane, Indigenous people are not stupid. All right. I hope this didn't sound too negative. Kids, it is good to read, but more importantly, it is good to question what you read. All right. And with that, having said that, I just want to say, miigwech, ganawabiyeg. Thank you for watching. BOOZHOO, NANABOOZHOO, the podcast about Ojibwe language and culture. I am NANABOOZHOO, and I will see you again. Gigawabamin, Minowa, Hawa.